Well, hello, Bruce Spurr. Thanks for joining me on the podcast.
It's lovely to see you and lovely to be here, Pia.
So, where does this podcast find you in Canada?
I'm in Ottawa, capital.
Nice.
Just, for people who don't know Ottawa, because not a lot of people know, Toronto, Montreal, it's like a triangle.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's on my bucket list. I haven't been there. What's your favorite part about Ottawa?
I think it's a lot of the green spaces. It's a very easy city.
Yeah.
It's a million people plus, but it's there's a lot of bike paths. You can really bike around the whole city, barely crossing any streets. A lot of rivers and parks and stuff. So they've done a good job.
Beautiful.
Job on that. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, so I brought Bruce on the podcast because for several reasons. He's a rock star in marketing, but he's also been my marketing and business coach in the past and helped Fingerprint marketing grow. I've kind of watched him work in different industries, and I've always been impressed with the gold that comes out of his campaigns and his strategy. So I wanted to bring him on to let's talk about what's not working, what's working today. But I'm curious for listeners out there, what are some misconceptions that you hear daily on marketing your small business?
I think the biggest detriment I find with small business owners, it's a lot different. I've worked with corporate clients, we've worked with small business owners. Small business owners are spending their own money. So it's a lot harder to convince somebody to spend $5,000 a month than to convince a corporation to spend $50,000 a month, because they're not, somebody working in the corp is not spending their own money; it's spending the company's money. They're just covering they're just there to do a good job. Actually, do job number two, cover their ass. Number one, that's their number one thing is not to get fired. Number two is to try and get results, but they'd rather not get fired than get results. So there's a different problem there. With small business owners, I find the biggest challenge is not a lot of small business owners like to spend money on advertising. So they seem okay with spending money on marketing services. Like they'll hire somebody to maybe do some SEO or to run ads. But when it comes to the media spend, they'll become cringy a little bit there. And I mean, we have one client that a while back, she used to call every month and freak out. She has a $9 million a year turnover business. And we probably added $1.5 million in the first 3-4 months of doing some work with her, advertising on Facebook and Instagram. And that she used to freak out about the $2,000 in media she was spending every month. I'm like, she was like, can we, she didn't mind paying us. She never once complained about the fee we charged her, but the media spend was where she panicked. And literally every month she would send me an email or get on a call. Finally, I was like, listen, you got to either relax and let this go. In the grand scheme of things, the $1.5 million is nothing compared to the $2,000 a month in media spend you're putting in. It makes zero sense. It's such an emotional response rather than a logical kind of piece, and I find that a lot of small business owners hate spending money on advertising. They feel like it's a waste of money. Marketing should just happen with effort rather than with actual putting money in media.
It's a mindset thing, right?
It is 100%, Pia. It's 100% mindset thing.
Yeah. So. And despite the numbers, right? I mean, you're not just paying for something, you're not seeing the results.
Right. The crazy part is you get results and they're like, well, maybe we get these results another way. I'm like, but why?
Yeah.
I think my number one, there was Phil Jackson, the basketball coach, famous of the Chicago Bulls, in the 90s, with one of the most winningest coaches of all time. He had this saying, he'd have a team on the floor, and he says, if they're scoring points and playing great D, don't change it. Don't change what seems to be working. Don't rest the players. Don't rotate them through. Don't run whatever your plan might be. Just once you find a winning combination, you just stick with it for as long as that produces you results. And then when things aren't working, that's when you want to kind of shake things up or move things around or really look at it deeper. Maybe you have to stick to it a little bit longer or whatever. But I find a lot of business owners, they like to gravitate to, they have a smaller budget and they like to gravitate to the latest, biggest trend. They'll see things about marketing funnels. They'll see things about, TikTok or whatever. And they're like, can can we do something there? I'm like, well, this is working and is building your business. Like, don't change what works. That would be
so it feels like you have to kind of continually educate them. It's almost like going to the doctor and say, I saw this ad for this pill that's going to make me like really strong and, sexually viral.
Right. Like, wait a minute, doc, ginseng. Like, you got to heard of ginseng, right? But it's a special form of ginseng that's, for sure.
Yeah. So the bottom line is trust your marketing strategist and trust your guide, right?
Well, I mean, I would trust them if they're producing results. Right. Trust the results is, I guess, the main thing is that if you have a machination that's working, stick with it. Like, don't change it. Just stay with it. Grind it out. Put more effort into it. Actually, Google had this funny thing a long time ago, back in 2007, 2008. They had search, and then they're working on Gmail, and they're working on like about 10 or 20 products at the same time. And they ended up cutting like 80% of the products they're working on. And the idea was, even a multi-billion-dollar corporation, they said, we're going to put more wood behind fewer fires. So we instead of spreading the thing around and constantly, like if you ever built a fire, you have to coax it at the beginning and get it going and blow on it and get the kindling going and making sure, and you have to tend it a lot more. But once it's raging, it's a lot easier. Just throw a log on it; it'll pretty much do whatever it needs to, right? So what you want to do in your business is build a bonfire rather than like spread it around on 10 things. Find the 3 things that make sense, and then just focus, put all the fire behind that, and then get the results. And then if you want more results, put more wood behind that same fire rather than try something else. And if you're not getting results from that, iterate a little bit. If you're still not, then you can dial it back to where it was effective and then see about adding other things. That would be kind of my top sort of strategies. And as an agency, we started off doing just 3 things. Most agencies will do a lot. They want to take on as much of your marketing as possible. But I was like, there's 3 things that work extraordinarily well. It's that 80-20 principle. Either producing 80% of the results. Let's put all the wood behind those fires. And now recently, in the last 3 months, we've started expanding on that 4th pillar. And then, and probably at the end of the year, we might add a 5th service. But slow.
It comes down to resources too, right? So I'm guilty of it. I have a team of about 10, and just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. Right. So, I'm doing a podcast that's this is kind of new for me, but this is more fun and more connection and getting myself out of the everyday. But our big leads are, SEO and content and networking, so, but every day I'm like, should I be on TikTok? Should I be on, in Clubhouse? Right. And, it's like, stop it, focus.
Well, I have a bunch of entrepreneurial friends on my Facebook page, and they're all talking about Clubhouse. And then somebody was like, posted, or like, you're not on Clubhouse. I don't understand. He's like, how much money is Clubhouse making you? They're like, well, nothing yet. Building an audience. He's like, I'll see you in 5 years. Facebook and Instagram is generating me like $7 million a year. So, he'll move over when it's a more mature platform.
So I find in my conversations with businesses, I find that there's 2 things prevalent. One is they don't really have a grasp at how competitive and noisy. I mean, they understand it as a consumer, but they don't understand that it's no longer build it and they will come. Am I right?
That's truth. That's a truth bomb right there. Yeah. I mean, in the childcare space, it's I hear the story, the same thing again and again. 7 years ago, we were just relying on word of mouth marketing. We could fill up ourselves or get close to it. We barely spent any money on marketing. Then a bunch of competitors moved in, and then and the world has gotten noisier, harder to kind of differentiate yourself. And now they're eating. Those competitors, the supplies spread over more people. You've got to, if you're not in a competitive industry already. That's just truth. You're fighting for attention, and then you're fighting against your competitors. There's like a double war going on constantly.
Yeah, and you're and especially during COVID. I mean, people were freaking out. It's like, I can't go to networking. I can't do all this stuff. I can't tell you how many people I talk to that are like, well, I have, I'm a referral only business. Well, that's great.
Right.
Until it's not.
Right.
Until, until it dries up, or, you've gone through your sphere or whatever it is. Now, obviously, if you have a great service or a product,
Right.
that's number one, right? So, referrals, that's a marketing piece, but you need a backup. Definitely need a backup. And then the other thing that I don't think that most business owners are aware of is they think, oh, it's already been done. My competitors are already doing it. They don't understand that we're still actually in the pioneer days.
Right.
I mean, there's so much. There's so much runway.
Right.
Look at podcasting. I mean, yes, you see podcasts everywhere, but your competitors aren't doing podcasts. I know agencies, they're not doing podcasts. I mean, it's very few and far between. You're just seeing it more, right?
Totally. I mean, I'll dial back to another truth bomb you just dropped is that, I don't want to do the same thing as competitors doing. I'm like, well, if it's working, they spend a lot of time and money getting it working. If it's working, you gotta start there. That's a great place to start, is just do what they're doing, but even the same or slightly better, and now at least you're competing in that space and you're diluting the impact of what they're doing at the same time as taking some of that market share, and then add something that's differentiated. And then the second one is sometimes you gotta zig when everyone else is zagging. So I'll go back to that Clubhouse example, which I made fun of, saying, I'm not making money off it and you're spending 6 hours a day on it. You know what? It depends on where in your career path you are. Maybe spending 6 hours a day on a new platform, building an audience from scratch that may explode. Then there's lots of social media platforms that haven't exploded, that died eventually and just kind of faded when the trend kind of died down. But you in 5 years, Clubhouse with your 10 million followers might be the place where you're driving most of your business. And you're building today, you're seeding today for a payoff in the future. But those are bets, where being on something more mature platforms like Facebook and Instagram, those are places where the advertising platform is mature, the audience is fairly mature, and stable. It's constantly being updated and grow, and there's still a lot of growth potential within it. You can, and within that stability is opportunity. You can take advantage of some of those past experiences that other people have had and dial in your own flavor and make a big win out of that. So,
there's nothing wrong with looking at people that are doing it well, right? And modeling on that and then putting your own twist on it. I think one of the stops that people make in their journey is they haven't done the branding work. They haven't done the deep dive, right? And what makes you all that and a bag of fries, right? And who are you talking to? Are they on Instagram? Are they on LinkedIn? Where are they? How do you work with, so I know that you market childcare centers and you've got a very successful business. How do you have that conversation initially with a new prospect, who haven't really done the work? Where is the starting line?
It's interesting because we actually do a reverse interview when we meet with clients. We interview them and to see if they're a good fit for us before we try and pitch ourselves. And the reason is because it's very difficult to advertise, and Me Too, that's not probably the best hashtag in the world to use. But, myself also product or service. Yeah. Like if you're like in the childcare space, if you're just another daycare and you have nothing really just differentiating you, it's really hard to pick out something that's unique and makes you unique. You're not going to get the same referrals. You're not going to get the same word of mouth. You're not going to get the same pickup on a conversion on sales. Advertising exposes you and exposes more of who you are. If you are an amazing business that delivers an amazing service and you're a diamond hidden jewel, then more people are going to see that and go, wow, look at that shiny thing over there. Let's go check that out. But if you're the same as everyone else and you're just kind of the bland gray rock that you can find in the middle of the street everywhere, it's going to be like, well, there's just another one of those, like what's in unique, what makes that unique? And that's so when we speak to clients, we're looking for that differentiation. And once we hit upon it, then I can say, okay, our advertising and marketing is going to expose that piece, and it's going to resonate with the parenting, with the parents in the community, and then they'll come in and check you out, and then it's up to you to kind of sell them the rest of the way. We can generate the leads. It's an internal sale at that point. Now, for to kind of expand that out to any business. If it's not a good fit and there seems to be like them also kind of scenario, and they're just another same, but not barely different, then what we do is advise them on how to make the programming different. And this you can apply this to anything, any kind of business, whether it's law or accounting or a chiropractic office or anything. You can find something within it that can innovate. I remember watching an episode of Mad Men. Do you ever watch that show?
Oh, I love that show. I binge watched the whole thing.
Did you?
It kind of it pissed me off because of the sexism, but it also is so entertaining.
Right. Well, it's a movie. It's set in the 60s, I guess. So
60s, yeah.
So there's one part where they're pitching cigarettes, a cigarette company. And he's like, how do you make your cigarettes? He's like, well, we roast them. He's like, oh, there we go. The brand cigarettes roasted, for 24 hours to perfection. And the guy's like, yeah, but everybody roasts them. It's just part of the process. And they're like, yeah, but you highlighting a specific part of your process really goes a long way. And there's a chain of coffee companies here locally called Bridgehead. And they opened up after the third coffee shop they opened. So their key to success was they roasted their own beans. And they opened a large rotisserie in one of their coffee shops, which was open to the public. So you could go in and see the whole setup and how they roasted all the coffee. And then all of a sudden they went from 3 to 14 coffee shops within like 2 years because people had a reason to go there. They liked the coffee, but to give them the reason of why they like the coffee. So it's like, why do you like the coffee so much? Oh, they roast their own beans. And they're like, oh, cool, I got to go check that out then, And
so it doesn't have to be, it's something you invent. It can just be part of your business already.
It can totally. Now, for them specifically, they had, they use organic fair trade beans, and then they roasted them to perfection, and they threw away like 20% of their beans at every stage. So there was a large cost structure to that to get a much better bean. And the whole explanation is on the wall, and most Bridgehead fans will tell you exactly what's on that wall. So there is a truth to it. You're not just highlighting something that nobody else, something that everyone else might do. But they've taken that advantage and they've really leveraged it. So that's part of it. I mean, Starbucks was we're going to be your second home. You'll notice you go into a Starbucks, it was the first coffee shop. They had big comfy seats and, that looked like something that you could see in your living room. It was really cozy. Now there's so many coffee shops that do that same thing, but Starbucks in the 70s and 80s was the first. So you didn't get that back then.
Later.
Coffee shops are all plastic, like there were donut shops that sold coffee.
Yeah. What are you seeing today, 2021, that is interesting to you in your space? Like what, I know there's the tried and true, a solid website, good branding, SEO, but what has piqued your interest and what are you excited to explore more? I have mine, but I want to hear yours first.
So I'm going to be a little boring. And this goes back to a sports analogy. Probably every sports movie and turnaround movie you've ever seen, the new coach comes in, and the first thing he does with the team is he starts training the fundamentals. And he goes, without strong fundamentals, you just can't get fancy. And so that's number one. Number two is teamwork, working together in a more integrated way. So my boring response to that question is websites. People keep thinking websites is going to die, and websites just continue to be, especially even in a millennial market or a Gen Z market, they still tend to be places people go to get the major first impression of you. After clicking on an ad or seeing you somewhere, they go there to get a sense of who you are. They're transactional. So e-commerce built in, booking services, doing something where you start that first engagement with the brand, whatever that looks like, booking your appointments, etc. So websites that do something, not just, show off who you are. So that would be my first, and that fundamental doesn't change. And the big thing that we've gone back to with websites is copywriting. Websites tend to lean
Definitely.
very visual to design, and people call it website design, but it actually should be called website copywriting, because if you have crappy copy and a beautiful design, great, you made a great first impression, but it's like showing up on a date looking really good, and then just talking about yourself.
You open your mouth.
You open
Yeah.
your mouth, right? And
I love that analogy. I'm going to steal that. That's awesome.
please do. So,
Yeah.
copywriting is a major component of that, and I think people most website development firms will ask the client for the copy. Clients are not copywriters,
Nope.
you know. And copywriting is a skill. It's like,
Yep.
you know, it's the exact opposite of how we've all learned to write from school. We all write in this academic writing style, you know, from our perspective. Copywriting is from the client's perspective, from the client's perspective, you know, speaking to them directly, using, you know, in a conversational format, you know, not
Creating
being self-referential, being emotional, being interesting, being unique, being on brand. You know, people write this boring, corporate-y sounds like everybody else, you know, like, welcome to, you know, Digital Services Inc. We love to, and it's all we, and it has nothing about the experience that I, as a reader, will get. And then emotional experience, benefit-based experience, you know, curiosity, some sort of personality driven component of it. Those are all the things that will differentiate. You want some awesome social media? Check out like Skittles' Twitter account, for example. You know,
Oh, cool.
always like just heavy, sarcasm, quirkiness, humor. Like whoever runs that account is a bloody genius, you know? So copywriting goes a long way to tell the story. That's number one. Number two is email marketing. That's the second thing people keep saying, it's dead. Every year I see email marketing finally is dead. You know, email is more prevalent than ever before. Like, you know, I would say a good 30-40% of conversions happen through email. And then I will add text messaging on top of that, and SMS, short-driven text messaging campaigns. You have to be very careful with text messaging. It's short. You don't want to do it too often. It's not as email. You can send 9 a day. Text messages, you don't want to send 9 a day. It's very intrusive to people's lives. So you have to be a little.
Well, it's very personal too, right?
Personal.
It's like it's very close to the person.
And so for there, that's when you want to be a human texting a human. You want to eliminate any kind of branding, any kind of corporate speak. Anybody, you would be like, hey, Pia, it's lunchtime. If you're hungry, we got a 2-for-1 coupon down at the salad bar, the pizza place, the Italian restaurant. You know, it's been a while since we've seen you. We'd love to have you back. You know, we've got this new cool Alfredo sauce I think you might love. You know, or let us know how we're doing, or let us know how, you know, we'd love for you to try it and let us know what you think. You know what I mean? Like, it's got to be personality driven, some sort of, you know, benefit to the end user. So copywriting matters a lot there too, texting, because it's such a short sentence too.
Well, I think people fall short because they don't want to take the risk, right? They don't have a good feeling for who they are and who they're speaking to. And then they don't want to take the risk because what if they scare people off? Well, if you're scaring people off that you know are not your client, then you're not going to lose, right?
That's my favorite advertiser. His name is Roy H. Williams, who wrote these books called The Wizard of Ads. And his main thesis for advertising is called "The risk of insult is the price of clarity." So you got to put.
Can you repeat that? I like that.
The risk of insult is the price of clarity. If you want to stand out from a busy marketplace, you got to do something that differentiates you. So if you ostracize 20% of your market, fantastic. Okay, I can't remember if I'm allowed to swear on this podcast, Pia, but I'm going to try.
Oh, yes, you are.
So fan-fucking-tastic, because I just probably alienated 30% of your audience that is not going to like me because I dropped an F-bomb. But F-bombs are part of my brand and my identity, and
Yes.
part of who I am. They come, you know, I use them to emphasize things, just as I did now. And that means, but that what that does is it connects me to the bottom 30%. I should call it bottom. I'm right there with you, brothers.
Not the top.
Yeah. For all the elitist ones who want to keep clean language, I'm sorry, I'm not the right brand for you. But if you're,
Right.
but if that resonates with you, if that makes sense for you, if you don't mind one of those once in a while in our conversation, then I could possibly be a good fit for you. So I may have alienated 30% of the market, but I have probably drawn and pulled in another 30% and captured their interest, captured their attention. Now, the middle market, I'm still fighting for a little bit, so I still got to add value within that. But man, like any business will crush with 30% of the market share. Like Apple's the biggest company in the world. They own just over 30% of average market share for anything, for phones, for tablets, for computers, et cetera, So,
And there's a level of respect that you get too for standing in that confidence, right?
Amen, sister. Hallelujah. Speak the truth.
Yeah. I mean, I have a pretty, I don't know if it's shocking, but I tell everyone that I meet, and I have nothing against these people, but I know that people who need to pray on it, light a candle, or talk to their spouse about a decision are not a good fit for us. And the reason is because they're not ready to take immediate action, like follow their gut and just trust that this is a good process. So again, nothing against people that do that. They're just not a good fit. And I'm taking a risk, right? Because I might lose some people that's the way they decide, and that's totally fine, but not for us.
Right. You want the quick trigger pullers rather than the sleep ones. And that's a distinct market. Absolutely. So I love that. That's amazing.
Well, I also have research that shows that quick decision makers tend to be very successful in their life because there's so much information out there, and you kind of have to just, you got the market's moving. That's great information, Bruce. The other thing too that I find is helpful is to create pictures in people's mind. So, the best example, right, is we are the Uber of, we are the Airbnb of, right? So immediately you're taking people to a connection. So in our business, I call myself the Chief Imagination Officer. I also call myself the Marketing Crash Test Dummy, so you don't have to try things out. So have you seen good examples of this, or have you worked with people on this?
Well, it's so kind of metaphorical ways to, it's a great question, actually. Be honest with you, I'm gonna have to sleep on that one and then think about it.
Yeah. But it's just another way of speaking to your audience, right?
Totally.
To make that immediate connection.
Yeah, definitely if you want to paint a picture, you can use those are similes, I guess, not metaphors. When you use something like we're the Uber of, we're the, there's comparisons. So that's called piggyback branding, where you're using a larger brand to kind of emphasize your own and help you build your brand identity. And when you're small and you use something big, it can make you look a lot better. So I define clients, we've used Apple. You can and then say I've ran a full service agency for many years, but more in the last couple of years, it's been just preschools and childcare centers. And there's a distinct difference between a Montessori school and a all the way to the other end, you'd be a kind of a more traditional childcare or daycare center. And you would compare one with like Apple, the Apple aesthetic, clean, simple, a lot of white space, beautiful design, everything matters in terms of aesthetics. Where the other side, it's a little bit like, the world kind of blew up a little bit and multicolored.
Preschool party.
Yeah, exactly. Like exactly, like a glitter party, a glitter bomb, a rainbow glitter bomb kind of blew up in the center. And it's not to say that there's, it's not a great center. The quality of care might be equivalent to both, but the aesthetic is completely different. And then in between, it's kind of like I call it the IKEA model, where you've got clean aesthetics, but IKEA is also very busy. Like you walk in, there's so much. But if you actually pay attention to IKEA, it's a lot, but a lot of clean aesthetic. The backdrop of which they showcase their stuff is very clean.
And they don't just drop you in there. They lead you with lines and paths.
Which is one of my favorite things we talk about with clients all the time. It's how we describe marketing funnels as walking through IKEA. You can lead your client through your sales and marketing process, or you can let them wander around the whole. You'd be a Walmart where you walk in, and you're like, "Where's the sporting goods section? Where's and it takes you like an hour to find it because you can't find anybody with the blue apron." So different experience.
Yeah, I love that analogy. That's great. So I know that you are an avid reader when you have time, and you've recommended several good books. What are some of your favorite books right now, or some classics that you want to share with the audience?
One book that's excellent recently on leadership and creativity is called The War of Art. I have it here. Stephen Pressfield is his name. He's the author. Exceptionally good book. I think it's a short read. It's not very long. It's for anybody who doesn't want to kind of commit to a massive read. I bought it. I listened to it, and then I bought it. So it's a really short read. It looks like that. And it's really about winning creativity, like creative battles, like the creativity inside. And creativity is one of those, I think, superpowers of kind of leaders, business owners. You don't have to be a creative person. Like I can't draw. I draw shitty stick figures, and
Same.
Like I literally have no artistic talent whatsoever, or musical or anything. But creativity is part and parcel of everything you do. It's how you structure. That IKEA, the way that they guide you through, is a creative process. The way they assemble everything is a creative process. Your website is a creative process, not just of the pictures, but of the words, of the structure, of the layout, of
the journey.
Of the journey you take people through. And your business is the same way. I remember going to, I was looking for a new lawyer at one point. I visited all these law offices, and I had this one law office where I sat down, and I remember the receptionist stood up, walked around the desk, and handed me a bottle of water on a tray, and then asked me if I wanted a coffee, and led me to sit down in a chair. She was like, "And I'll take your coat for you," hung it up, and she went back around the desk. I got to tell you, that's a very small thing, but which lawyer do you think I went with?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm paying a slight premium for their services, but I got to tell you, that receptive experience happens every single time I go. So it's incredible. Yeah. I mean, it's been a while since I've been there, COVID, but.
And how do you do that in your digital world, right? How do you invite people onto your website as if it's your second home? It's your, make them feel comfortable. I call it your website manner. Like, do you have good website manner?
Well, one of the first things on a website is a great experience. You come in. What is the first thing they read on the big kind of image on the the things that we call the hero images? Yeah. Most people are like, "Welcome to so and so's law firm, Jackson and Jackson law firm." I'm like,
we've been in business since 1962. Yeah.
Right. Like, I know where I'm at. I clicked on the link and I see your logo. I don't need to tell me where I'm at. You're wasting an opportunity. Like, tell me 47 years with a 92% win rate. We're here, our clients have been with us. So those are interesting facts and figures, but most important to us is that we have multi-generational clients. Our the grandfathers, the fathers, now the sons and daughters are coming to us. That would be I'm like, whoa, that's kind of cool. Like, that gave me goosebumps a little bit going, okay. Obviously these people.
And then on the other side, it could be, this is not your grandfather's ad agency. So for someone new.
Right. Someone, relevant, young, hip, you've got, I don't know, somebody doing a kickflip on a skateboard, and now I'm dating myself. I don't know what's cool these days with the teens, but
Oh, come on! You've got kids. You've got to be hip. Come on.
If you're, I've got 4.5-year-old. He thinks dinosaurs are so cool, which I love. So until he outgrows dinosaurs, then I'm screwed. But
yeah, that's a powerful takeaway. Is welcoming and again, to remind people, you literally have 3 seconds to capture someone's attention, make a connection, and persuade them to do the first thing, which is either pick up the phone, fill out a lead gen form, or buy. So,
I mean, I'll challenge that a little bit. I would say the first thing you want somebody to do is scroll to your site and read more, because the more they read on your site, we have stats on this. We have these long. We've tested out so many different layers to our websites, and what we found is that if people have these long scrolling sales pages with bite-sized chunk of information, what happens is a mom and dad will review the site, come for the tour. Mom will know some things about the center. Dads will know other things, and there's very little overlap because they have scrolled through, and we go average time on site goes from 30 seconds to 3 minutes. Every time we can get that average time on site to tick up on an average about 10-15 seconds, we see the inquiry rate tick up slightly, but more importantly, the registration rate at the end of the sales cycle goes up significantly. So the longer they spend on the website at the beginning, the more likely they are to get through that whole process and sign up at the end, which is really what you're looking for. So if you want more,
that's a really good point.
So that's it. You want them to embed as much of your brand as possible and to build things in bite-sized chunks, because it's like social media has taught us this. We scroll until we see something that's interesting to us. We stop, we read, and we will read. We will consume, we will watch, we'll click on the video, we will watch until it's boring, and then we'll scroll. And at the end, through our sites, we lead them to the next step. So on a preschool page, we go from general unique selling points. Maybe we'll have anywhere from 7 to 20 of them on the homepage, to how old is your child? Nobody can resist that question. They click on because they're there for a specific age child. So what's your, are you there for corporate law or personal law or, family law or whatever, or, are you here for seafood? What are you interested in? Seafood, pasta, what's your favorite kind of food? Whatever it is,
it's an experience.
It's an experience. You click on the next one, it takes them to that page, and then they scroll again. It's another long scrolling page. And then at the bottom of that page, we go, hey, you want to book a tour? Hey, you want to come in? Then we ask them for the lead. We don't ask for the lead right away, because we want them, the more they experience the site, the more likely they are for the whole sales process to register. So we want them to click a couple times. We want them to experience and read and review a couple times, and then we want the information. If I get their information right away, it's basically a shitty lead that more likely not going to go anywhere. If I get
they're looking at price, maybe
they're looking at price. They're tire kickers. They're just going to go, wow, you guys are the most expensive option. Forget it. I'm not even going to show up. But if they show up and then you tell them the price, people are like, well, but it's such an amazing school. One of the parents is going to be an advocate, but doesn't little Johnny deserve to be here? Doesn't we should ask your mom to help us out?
Right. No, that's an extremely valid point, and the data supports it. So 2 things. Statistic I read last week in 2021, 92% of consumers will arrive at the consulting or the cart or whatever with all the information they need to buy. Like, they've already educated themselves. So if you are doing that heavy lifting for them and your competitors aren't, you're going to win the game. And then the second valid data is Google is rolling out in May some new ranking factors all around customer experience, because that's the bottom line. If you can't create an experience that captures the audience, you will not be on page 1 of search. So just what you outlined for our audience was perfect. You want to create bite-sized pieces of information and lead them through a customer journey, and then at the bottom, make the ask. So great stuff. Thank you so much, Bruce. I know that you're hiring at your agency. Where can people reach out to you? You're specifically looking for what, salespeople and developers?
Wow, we got a long list of recs. Sales. We're looking for a senior strategist and data analyst. We're looking for an email marketer. We're looking for a website design developer. Those are the main, and copywriters. We're always looking for exceptional copywriters to add to our roster. So we've got some part-time opportunities and full-time opportunities, and we are a lovely place to work, and we pay well.
Great. So where can people find you?
Go to growyourcenter.com, growcentr.com, Y-O-U-R in the middle. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Career centered up.
Spelling is not your strength.
Thank you. 100% truth.
Great. Well, this has been really eye-opening, and I've learned some stuff. I've actually taken quite a few notes. You're always learning, right? And appreciate your time, Bruce. This has been really fun. Thank you.
It's a pleasure, Pia. Anytime.